chatting, and then hit record. Oh, okay.
Are we all set?
Not yet, Jerry. Gotta
Okay.
let us know.
Yeah, we should be good to go. Everyone should be merged. So,
And everything's secure.
yep.
Jerry?
Okay,
you're-
first item, is there anyone here to speak for open forum?
If there's anyone that wants to speak, please raise your hand. You can hit the hand, raise your hand through your participant button.
Are you speaking open forum or you?
So Ramsey, any,
I'm just giving everyone a little time to see if anyone's raising their hand, Jerry. I'm not seeing anyone.
okay,
We spoke at the open forum last time.
okay, then
We can get going, I think, Jerry, with the meeting. I
great.
don't think
I'd
there's
like to
anyone
call,
here for the open forum.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. Mr. Secretary, would you call the roll, please?
Ludwig,
Here.
Page,
Here.
Whitaker. Here's David. I know he's here. He was here. Oh, David, you muted. He's here. He raised his hand, Stano.
Here,
He's here. Greer,
Here.
Robertson,
Here.
absent is Delvecchio, and Goodman.
Okay, motion to approve the agenda, please.
I'll move to approve the agenda. Amanda Dreer.
Thanks, Amanda. Second, please.
Whitaker,
David, thank you. All in favor?
aye.
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 Aye. Okay. First item is to approve the minutes from the September 24th meeting. I have a few corrections. Anyone else want to start?
I just had two of substance. Page 39,
Okay,
line 1819.
Yep.
It should be Gulfside Parkway as in a proper name of a street.
so capitalized.
Yeah, and one Gulfside, one word, Parkway. The way it's written, it looks more like a description.
Right.
And on page 40, line 25, it says logged you. I believe it should be applaud you.
Yes,
APPLAUD.
or laud. I thought it was LAUDE, but
I don't remember if that's what you said. I think it was you,
well,
Jerry.
no, either one.
Makes more sense.
Anyone is better than logged, okay? So that's fine. Great, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, for me to start? On page 11, line 16, 17, and it says, I believe she had 2 window charts. I don't think that's right. Don't know. Page 16, line 9, the way it, and then blank on, I think we need to add is there, the way it is. Page 23, line 12, Ken, your, Y-O-U-R, should probably be Y-O-U apostrophe R-E. Sorry for all the minor things here, but my better half is a grammar Nazi. Page 29, Historical Preservation Commission should be capitalized. Page 35, line 18, it says Barbarino. I'm not sure what that's all about. Does anyone remember?
Uh,
No, I guess not. Okay, question.
Oh, wait, I put myself on mute. It's just an expression. You can delete it.
Okay, all right, so we can scratch that. Thank you. And somewhere along the line, and I believe it was Angie said that Charles Cook had retired. Did you say that? Angie? You're muted, Angie.
Sorry, there you go. Not Charles Cook Company. I don't know about Charles Cook himself, not the company retired. Jim Keane has retired.
Okay, okay, fine. Thank you. Page 34, line 6, it says amalgamon or something like that.
Amalgam, an amalgam, amalgam.
Okay. Yes? Is that right?
Yes, that's a word
Okay.
of many things put together. It's called
Okay.
amalgam. Yeah.
Thank you. And let's see. On page 47, line 6, it says you got, I believe it's supposed to be you've with an apostrophe VE, got. Page 47, it says I can hear it, and I believe here should be spelled HEAR. You see, I had nothing to do this afternoon. Let's see. On page 58, line 15, certificate of appropriateness should be capitalized.
These are the minutes.
And on page I think on page I think it's 59, line 22, sacred sites program should also be capitalized. On page 61, line 22, it says second should have a question mark after that. And that's it. Any other corrections or additions? Then I ask for a motion to approve the minutes with corrections as noted.
I'll make that motion, John Page.
Thank you, John. A second, please.
I'll second.
Thank you, David. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great.
Aye.
Minutes stand approved. Was this meeting duly advertised, Ramsey? You're muted.
You're muted.
Excuse me. Yes, they were properly advertised in the Brighton Pittsford Post of October 8th, 2020.
Okay, thank you, Ramsey. First item, we have communications memorandum from Mary Jo, town historian, regarding 909 Landing Road. Did you all receive that?
Yes.
Any questions, comments, or otherwise?
You can just receive and file the communications. There's one
Thank you,
from
Mary
Angela
Jo.
Pickerel also that should be received and filed.
Okay, thank you. Any comments? Thank you. Okay, first item on the agenda is,
Excuse me, Jerry, this is Ken. Could we just have a motion, please, to receive and file? And
File the communications.
sure. Thank you,
I'll make that motion, John Page.
Hey, John.
John. Second, please, David. Did you second?
I will, yes.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. First item on the agenda is application of Mary Jo. It is 10H-01-20. Application of Mary Jo Lampier, town historian, for property owned by Trinity Reformed Church at 909 North Landing Road, tax number 123.17-1-44 for landmark designation. Is there anyone here to speak to that?
Jerry, did I hear correctly? It's 10H-03-20.
Yes, is that what I said or not?
Thought you
Yes.
said 01, but
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, if I did, it's 10H-03-20. So is there anyone here to speak for that designation?
Let's see, if you could raise your hand.
This is Jim Stoops from Trinity Reformed Church.
Jim, would you please repeat your name and spell your last name for the record?
Sure. James Stoops. Last name is spelled S-T-O-O-P as in Paul S.
Thank you. Okay, you have the
Just
floor.
for your knowledge, also from Trinity Reformed, we have John Bernhardt and John Stratton who are also on the call.
Okay, great. Thank
Would you
you.
like us to unmute them?
Okay, you have the floor, Jim. And John. And who else?
Just the three of us, I believe. At this point, there's the other names that are names other than iPhone, I don't recognize.
Okay, great. Well, Jim, you go ahead and start, please.
So I appreciate you're giving me the floor. I'm unfamiliar with this proceeding. I'm, to be honest, prior to our receiving notice in September of the application, I was unaware of the existence of this group and its charter. And so procedurally, I'm unfamiliar with what you're expecting or how these procedures go. So we'll need a little bit of guidance.
Okay, well, do we start with that, or do you want to just go ahead and?
No,
Right.
that would be fine.
Okay, well, we're gathered here tonight to talk about the request by our town historian to designate the property at 909 Landing Road for historic designation. It's not the kiss of death. We are here to sort of be of assistance and guide you through this procedure, but we feel that the property warrants historic designation. And so any questions you have will be certainly welcome, which I assume you have plenty. So we'll let you start with those and we'll see if we can address them.
Sure. And so the application speaks directly to the old school building and the sanctuary. The property currently also has the parsonage on it. It is a single tax unit. The parsonage is different from the other structures. My assessment is that it doesn't have historical content to it. We're more, it's maybe of a little more immediate concern. While we have not taken action other than to begin discussing the procedure with a real estate agent, we have begun discussing selling the parsonage. We have recently hired a new minister who does not have an interest in living there. And changes over the last several decades suggest that we would not ever have a minister that would be interested in it. And so item number one of concern for us is not having the parsonage house designated historical, so that we would be able to move forward with potentially selling that. Let me state that internally we have discussed selling it. It is been, I'll use the term socialized within the church informally. There has not been a congregational decision. There has not been a congregational meeting with the decision to sell it. But if you were to ask my opinion, I would say it's a high probability.
Okay, and who else? Anyone else to speak about the parsonage?
I
My
guess,
memory,
John, if there's anything that you have to add that differently.
No, you have stated exactly what we're in the process of.
Okay. Mary Jo, any thoughts about the parsonage and whether or not it should be or should not be included in the
When I wrote the application, Jerry, I did not include the house because Ramsey and I had met with the officials from this church, and they indicated that the parsonage had no historic value, and we agreed. So that's why just the old school building and the newer church are included in the application.
Okay, and John or Jim, I should warn you or advise you that Mary Jo and I both lived across from this building for a number of years. So we know it well. In fact, I think we went to Strawberry Social that you have, and hope you have another one.
Yeah, sadly, that wasn't available this year for obvious reasons.
I know. So is there any consensus among the commission about not including the parsonage?
well, I think we spoke about this in a prior meeting, and I have no problem with not including it in the application.
I agree.
Okay, nor do I. Anyone else have concerns about this?
I'm fine with not including it in the application.
Okay. All right, so Jim, that's out of the way. I guess we
Okay.
will not include that. Any other questions or concerns of the church?
Start with second concern, and this is maybe a little bit of an odd one. And actually, some of the images that you flashed by, you may or may not find helpful, but one of the aging items on the church is the shrubbery around the outside. To the effect that, a number at actually on the other side of the building where you may have seen where the courtyard is.
Okay.
That shrubbery is aging, and we're in the process of needing to make changes to it. In the meeting that we have met with Ramsey and Mary Jo a month ago, perhaps. And it wasn't clear to me whether or not changes of that order would be also included. It doesn't make, personal opinion, I don't see where this kind of landscaping has historic value. I can understand the concern from the outside for aesthetics. I don't think we're any different than you are in that aspect. It's just a matter of more formally having to get more people to weigh in on something like landscaping. And so it wasn't clear to me after that meeting if the landscaping would fall under the guise of this board.
I think, and this is strictly personal, but, and other members are certainly invited to weigh in, but I think this would not be included. If you had significant older trees that have been there for many, many years, that might be included. But I think as far as shrubbery and so forth, I think that's your, certainly your option to replant or redo those. And I'll let other members of the commission weigh in on this before we render an opinion.
Yeah, I agree that it's not been identified in the application as by an important landscape architect or being part of the application. I would guess that Ramsey and or Ken could speak to how they feel about that. I know that we talk to people when they're going to do other types of landscape elements like fences and stuff like that. But as far as the landscape on this building, I don't see any problem myself.
Thanks, John. Anyone else? Anyone, as they used to say in Ferris Bueller, anyone want to weigh in on this?
I'll just say, yeah, the landscape is not remarkable and doesn't seem to have any historical value.
Thanks, Diana. So I think unless someone else speaks up, you're all set there.
Okay. I think it is important that you did mention the historical trees, right? We've had a couple of wonderful trees in that side yard near Landing Road. John, I'm going to have to lean on you, John Bernhardt, a little bit. We've needed to remove one of them for safety concerns. I don't know the state of the other trees in that area. Certainly, so maybe you can, John, first speak to that,
well,
and then know if that's something that needs to be discussed in this venue.
Jim, are any of those shown on the video shots that we have?
There's one on the south side of the, it's showing right there on the left. That's
Okay.
another older tree that's in pretty bad shape too, that we're going to be looking at.
What do we know what kind of tree it is? Oh, I see what you're talking about. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and the rest of the trees are in real good shape.
Okay,
Like Jim said, we had to take one tree out in the courtyard there, which is similar to the one next to the building that we want to, that one there.
okay. Thank you. What, do we know what it is? It looks,
It's a maple, I believe, in Norway.
okay, Norway maple. Any comments from the commission?
So, Ken, do we have a precedent for this?
We
Well-
have, I could answer that a little bit, and Ken could jump in too. I know there's been a few properties where we have excluded out certain aspects of the landscaping, certain aspects such as pools, different things that we're not attributing to the architectural significance of the property. I've also known that we have specifically designated landscape when designating properties because the landscaping was done by a well-known landscape architect and was still intact.
There was a property on,
Very much specified that
Right.
these landscape, this is very much important part of this property and is covered under the designation.
there was a property on East Avenue where the tree was significantly, well, I won't say diseased, but in not good shape, shall I say that, which we certainly approve. So if the tree is not well, or it looks like it might present a hazard, I don't think that would be a major issue. Does anyone agree or disagree with that?
Oh, I mean, I would agree. I believe if a tree is dead, it can be removed.
It can be,
Without-
under our law, we would
Yes.
request that it be removed because it's hazardous.
Right. So I guess if it's a matter of you're not sure if it's too far gone to, you could err on the side of coming to the commission.
Yeah,
But-
that's, I'll be honest with you, that's a lot. I've done that. I think I did that to you, man, to be honest. I mean, if I look at it, I'm not sure. I would ask
Mhm.
someone to come in, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so I mean, if it's certainly if the tree is diseased and it's posing a hazard, I feel the commission would not hesitate to allow you to take it down. I guess it's just a question of when you would need to come to us before. I mean, if a tree is dead, then it can be removed. It should be removed. But I don't know if anyone has any other thoughts on how far gone it needs to be.
Well, Amanda, thank you. Jim, I would say, I don't know who, maybe check with Clover Lawn and Landscape down the street to see if what their prognosis on the tree is. If it's A, dead, or B, presents a hazard because the trunk, I noticed it was a split trunk with branches going out, large branches going out either way. If that's a potential hazard, perhaps it could be cabled or something like that. But if it is not in good condition, then I think, as Amanda said, we certainly would allow you to take it down.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
For clarity's sake, just as I'm taking my notes here, is it the board's desire to then exclude all landscaping and plantings except for some specified trees, which I've so far heard described as maybe a Norway maple?
I think that's appropriate, Ken.
Or is it the board's desire to include all plantings except for the shrubs that were described as by Jim as needing replacement? We need some clarity in the resolution that I'm going to be drafting.
Well, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but I would certainly exclude all shrubbery. I don't see any of that as being significant. For the tree, I would just say that might be appropriate to get a tree surgeon or a landscape person to look at the tree to see if it does present a hazard. And if it does, we certainly don't want to stand in the way of its removal. But if it's something that can be cabled or saved.
We don't need to get into that right now, Jerry.
I know. I'm just saying.
Those
I guess on the
what some future application might look like. What I'm interested in is if we are going to proceed with a resolution to designate this property, that resolution clearly spells out for this board, the owner, and future boards exactly what it is that we're designating. So we're designating, presumably, if the board chooses to do so, the old school building, the church building, excluding the residence or parsonage as we've variously described it, and excluding any shrubs on the property. That's what I'm getting, just so we have a clear record. If somebody disagrees with that, can you let me know now, please?
I think
I
they said,
agree with that.
I think they said there were more than one tree that were valuable.
And
Well,
that's why I'm not trying to specify the trees. I'm saying that we're just excluding the parsonage and the shrubs.
Right.
Yes.
I think that's
Good.
good.
Okay, all right,
And sorry, just
keep going. I'm sorry. to
for
interrupt.
additional clarity, right, there are other smaller trees on the property. And so when you say shrubs, I have, in mind the shrubbery that's around the perimeter of the sanctuary. But I don't know that those other trees, small flowering trees, I think, John, it might be a cherry that's near the parking lot.
It is.
Just from the blooms in the spring. Is it the board's view that you're only protecting this Norway maple? And if you're doing all the other trees, what is, I guess I would like to understand the historical significance of them.
Good question.
Could we consider, I know we have done before, like trees over a foot wide in diameter, just to focus on the trees that may have historical value and exclude things that are clearly haven't been around long enough to be part of the historic value. I don't know if that's an appropriate option here.
Well, I think it's a, thank you. Good point. Anyone else? Ken?
Well, two things. First, I think Jim's question is right on point. What's the historic value of any of the trees or plantings on the property? If you don't believe that they contribute to the historic value of the property, they should not be part of the designation. Secondly, to the extent that you want to start making exceptions about caliper size of tree trunks, we don't have that data, I don't believe, available to us. It is not in the Cultural Resources Survey, and tree size changes. So I think that would be difficult to understand. Again, remember, what you're enacting today is something that's going to stay on the books for many, many years to come, hopefully forever. And, 20 years from now, or 30 years from now, or 50 years from now, somebody should be able to go back and read it and understand what it is that you intended. And so maybe what's the right thing to do here is, if nobody believes that any of the trees or plantings contribute to the historic character of what it is that you're trying to preserve, which is an old school building and a mid-century church building, then maybe that's what should be designated and the plantings should not.
I'm fine excluding all landscaping on this project.
Sounds like a plan. Anyone else?
I'm
I
fine with
agree
that as
with
well.
John. I agree with John.
Okay. So all plantings are excluded. Excuse me. Any other comments? Okay, Jim, you still have the floor.
Thank you. The last item that I have on my list, and then after this, I'll ask John and John. We are in the process this summer of getting quotes for having the sign along South Landing Road replaced. I think one of your images that you flashed by that was in the survey gives a pretty good capture of what that sign looks like.
Okay, you mean North Landing Road.
Oh, sorry, the other landing road, yeah.
Well, there's a big difference. It's
There is a big difference. So
around the
that
quite,
is the,
west around the quite,
yeah.
You gotta be careful. Okay, so you're gonna have that replaced.
That is the sign in question. It is not the original sign that has been there. I can't, and I'll lean here on John Bernhardt to maybe describe the issues that we're having with the sign, maybe beyond what's obvious from that image.
This sign, moisture got in there because there's a plexiglass on either side of it, and it's been eating away at the coating, as you can see there. The moisture got to it. The first sign that we had was a lot thinner than what this sign is.
It looks like New York State's license plates.
Yeah.
But yes, I think that would be included in our designation. So, and I think we would be certainly up and agreeable to whatever new sign that you were to decide that you want.
So where I could use a little bit of clarity along these lines, just so that we don't get into a cyclical of proposing and getting turned down. When we met with Ramsey and Mary Jo, part of the discussion, what they conveyed to us is your consideration is for the materials used, less so with colors, but trying to maintain that the same historical materials. This is a case where I think we can all appreciate the importance of the aesthetics of the sign, but the material for the sign itself, particularly being that it is not the original sign, I don't understand that value. From the board's perspective, what is important about maintaining that sign, in that sign?
Well, again, if you're just going to paint what's there, that's one thing. If you're going to come up with a new sign, that's something else. But
So the intention was to have the sign replaced.
okay, well then fine. Just
So if you're gonna replace, if you want to replace the sign and if this property was designated, the Historical Preservation Commission would replace the architectural review. We have a two-step process in our sign review process. If the sign meets code, could be a three-step process if the sign does not meet code. But normally it's a two-step process. You go to the architectural review board first, and then you go to the planning board second. Here it's HPC instead of the architectural review board. So there is another board that will have a say in reviewing the sign.
And what I'm not understanding is from this board's perspective, in this case, what are you looking for? Well, what's the criteria? You know, is it the materials? Is it just that it looks good? I don't understand for this particular case.
Well,
I think
you're
it's,
at-
I think it's a
you
number
are
of things.
expecting.
Go ahead, John.
You're asking a hypothetical. So I think what we're looking for is something that looks good and meets the sign code in this particular instance. There's no precedence here that I can see that we would be looking to. And so I can't quite imagine anything that we would have a problem with in a new sign that you know generally looks good and does what you want it to do.
Under our sign code, it is important to note that appearance of the sign and compatibility with the surrounding architecture is part of the review, regardless what board's reviewing it. And that same would apply to the Historical Preservation Commission.
as long as it's not one of the signs they have outside the fire department that has these LED things that comes on all the time and tells you the weather and tells you that there's going to be church on Sunday or whenever. But a traditional church sign, I don't think we'd have any problems with. We just, I guess, would like to review what it is when you decide.
If I could just jump in here again, I'm sorry to interrupt. So an application for a sign or changing the sign is not presently before this board. What is before this board is a public hearing on the designation of this property, and that's what our focus should stay on. If the property is designated and then the owner of the property wishes to change some exterior feature, including the sign, the owner would need to come back to the board with an application to get a certificate of appropriateness to get the sign approved. And the reason that's done is because the standard is to make sure that exterior changes, including signs on the property, are compatible with the historic character of the property as this board may designate tonight. So that is about as much as we can really say as a commission or as a board tonight, until and unless the property is designated and then an application came in for an actual certificate of appropriateness for a particular sign.
Thanks, Ken.
I have a question, Jerry,
Go ahead.
or Jim. You said this is obviously not the original sign. Are there any depictions or pictures of a more historical sign that would be of interest?
The only capture that I have, we used to have, I don't know the correct term, sub signs that would attach underneath that you could have. If you go back years ago in the summer, church services changed their time. And so during most of the year, it would show as 10:30, and in the summer, it would show as 9:30. Yes, there you go. So that would be the 1998.
Well, that looks pretty nice.
It looks very much the same, right? Other than the sub sign. So I cannot, my history to Trinity Reformed Church only goes back to 1995. And I don't have with me any other information or knowledge going back earlier.
Well, as Ken has stated, we're going to designate, or we hope to designate the property. And any changes would have to come before us, but also, I believe as Ramsey has stated, they would also perhaps have to come before ZBA or some other agency in the town to get approval of a new sign. So,
And yeah, and thank you. And to be clear, I wasn't looking to the board to give me a yes, no, or definitive. I was really trying to understand in these kinds of situations what the board is looking for, to get an understanding of when you get an application, what are you digesting? What are you trying to maintain? Because obviously if it was material, if this was a historic sign, if it was built of the same brick that the church building was and was built in at the same time, I understand that tie to its historic relevance. In this case, I'm struggling, and I can understand that we may have future cases, and it would be helpful if I, better understood the board's motivation in those cases where the materials are not representative of what was there historically. So I understand it's a hypothetical.
Right.
I'll be honest, I'm not walking away with a good understanding, and we would then just follow the process.
Jim, I don't think I think a sign is a sign. Like I said, as long as it's not something that has screaming videos on it or something like that, I think we're fine. We're pretty easy to get along with. And as Mary Jo, I think, put up on the screen, the original sign is fine. What you have there is fine. We're not going to be hard to get along with. Just come with us with what you want to do.
Okay. And maybe I was biased by our earlier meeting where I walked away with the understanding that it was vital to maintain the same materials.
No, I don't
Well,
think
it is on the historic structure. It is, materials do play. I mean, I was part of that conversation. And I'm not sure what context you're taking that in, but materials are an important feature in historical preservation.
Well, that's correct. Ramsey has it, but also, we're probably not going to put up, well, I don't think you have anything to worry about. So I would suggest you come to us when the time is right for a proposal, and unless it's something really weird, I think we'll be okay.
Okay. Yeah, Ramsey already indicated my proposal of a 100-foot sign with bright lights was not probably going to
Yeah.
go overly well.
No, it's not really allowed by code, but we're not.
And
talking-
if I could just add, in this sort of situation where it's not a clear, like you said, it's not a sign made of the same bricks that the church was made of. In these sorts of situations, when you have something like that, I think what's most common is to come up with the plan, what you'd like to do, and come to open forum with the commission and talk about it, ask some questions before you put your application in, get feedback, get questions answered, and then put an application in understanding what needs to be done, if that helps at all. You do get the opportunity to talk about situations that may not be clear cut, as this non-original sign would be.
Okay.
I find
Perfect.
a lot of people have taken advantage of that and found it very helpful over the years.
That is the end of the list of questions that I had. I guess John Bernhard or John Stratton, were there, I guess John Bernhard, are there other relevant issues, maintenance issues, things for the structure that need to be discussed, that you'd like to have discussed?
The school, the old school is in fairly good shape as far as construction. The only issues we're going to be dealing with is the roof on the sanctuary. It looks like it's going to need to be replaced in a few years.
All right.
They've talked about different types of roofing, which could be metal roofing. Right now, it's shingle roofing. Do we stick with the shingle roofing? And that's about all I would have.
Okay.
Is it, you're talking about sticking with asphalt shingles like
Yes.
that? I don't think we'd have a problem with that. In fact, if it's like kind material, I don't think you'd need to come before us. If you change to metal or something like that, we'd like to know about it.
Okay.
And we do expect to be apprised of your next Strawberry Social.
Probably
Hopefully
won't be
next
till
year.
next year.
Well, hopefully. Who knows? Any other questions that you have or concerns?
No.
Okay.
Other than understanding, and maybe if I just sit back and stop talking, I'll figure it out. Beyond this, I don't understand really what the process is or what your intentions are. So I'll stop talking, and if I have questions, I'm assuming I can ask later as we move forward.
Sure. Well, what we will do tonight is consider this before the Commission for Historic Preservation. And if we do designate the property and you do want to make significant changes other than paint colors or a replacement of like kind materials, then you would come before us and talk to Ramsey about a certificate of appropriateness. For instance, if you wanted to put on a metal roof as opposed to a shingle roof, you would come to us. Things like that. Other than that, and we're here to help you along the way if you have other questions about anything on the exterior of the buildings. You could come to open forum and ask those questions, and hopefully we would guide you along the way. John, you were about to say something?
Yeah, I'm John Stratton. My only concern is that the windows on the single-story place between the old building and the sanctuary are really, the old thin 1950s kind of window. I know that if you replace that with just, a little nicer window, but then would we have to have the, make sure that they're the same wood material on the thing?
Well, I think we would certainly want to look at whatever proposals you had in mind. Anyone else? John?
I would say in general that we would probably expect the elevation to look when it's done as it looks now. That can be accomplished in a number of ways.
So I guess the answer is yes, we would want to have you come before us, perhaps first in open forum to discuss your options. And then, depending upon what the options were, ask Ramsey to apply, or you could apply to Ramsey for a certificate of appropriateness for whatever you had in mind.
It's to the commission. I'm their secretary.
Yes,
The actual application is to the commission.
okay, thank you. Apply to the commission, yes, through Ramsey, of course. Does that answer your question? Oh, hopefully.
Yes,
All good, John Stratton?
yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else? Questions?
If you can open it up to the floor, Jerry, anyone that wants to speak about the application?
Sure, I was allowing our presenters to speak. Anyone else in the audience like to speak on this application?
If there is, if you could please raise your hand. You can get to the hand button through the button, participants button. I'm not seeing anyone.
Okay,
Ramsey, I just wanted to add something about this building, if it's designated, becomes eligible for the New York Landmarks Conservancy Sacred Sites Program. There's real money available if the roof needs replacing, if some windows need replacing. Building to be eligible, must be located in New York State, owned by a religious institution actively used for worship, and listed on the state or national register of historic places, or designated pursuant to a local landmarks ordinance certified by New York State, either individually or as a contributing component of an historic district. This would make this church building eligible for assistance. And within the last 3 years, the New York Landmarks Conservancy Sacred Sites grants have ranged in size from $1,000 to $50,000. The maximum pledge is usually about $70,000. That's the grants over the past 3 years have typically funded about 20% of a project's cost. So that's real money.
great. Thank you, Mary Jo. And hopefully Jim and John will take that into consideration. And Mary Jo can guide you hopefully through those steps if needed. Anything else? Then I'd like to close the public hearings. Any other discussion among the commission members? Ken, do you have a motion?
Yes, Jerry, let me just get my notes up here on my screen. Okay, I would propose the following resolution. Whereas application 10H0320 has been submitted for designation of 909 North Landing Road in the town of Brighton, County of Monroe, State of New York, tax parcel number 123.17-1-44 as a landmark under the town's historic preservation law. And whereas the Historic Preservation Commission duly called a public hearing to consider such matter, which public hearing was held on October 22nd, 2020 by Zoom as allowed under the governor's executive order, allowing for remote video conferencing of public hearings. and all persons having an interest in such matter, having had an opportunity to be heard therein. And whereas, based upon the materials submitted at and the testimony presented in the public hearing, including the application prepared by Town Mary Jo Lanfear, dated August 25th, 2020, and the Cultural Resources Survey of said property by Cynthia Hauk, dated 1998, and the update to the survey by Katie Eggers Como, dated May 27, 2020. And a memorandum supplied to the Historic Preservation Commission by Town Historian Mary Jo Lanfear, together with all such other photographs, materials, and testimony presented to the Historic Preservation Commission in connection with the application. The Historic Preservation Commission hereby finds that the above referenced property possesses such historic value based upon the fact that it is associated with the educational and religious development of the town of Brighton, that the school building was designed by noted designer and architect Otis H. Dreyer, and is of the colonial revival style, and that the church building was designed by well-known architect Leonard Wasdorp, and therefore the building known as the old school building and the church buildings meet the criteria for the Town of Brighton's historic preservation law for designation. Now it is hereby resolved that the Town of Brighton application number 10H-03-20 for designation as a landmark of the property located at 909 North Landing Road in the Town of Brighton, tax parcel ID number 123.17-1-44, together with all of the above referenced materials submitted in advance of and during the public hearing, be received and filed. And be it further resolved that the Town of Brighton Preservation Commission hereby designates the above referenced subject property located at 909 North Landing Road in the Town of Brighton as a historic landmark pursuant to Chapter 224 of the Town Code, based upon the Commission's findings as set forth above regarding the historic value of the subject property and its association with the social, cultural, and economic history of the Town of Brighton. And it is further resolved that such designation shall not apply to the residence structure on the property known as the parsonage, nor shall such designation apply to any landscaping or plantings located on the property.
Ken, the only thing, and maybe this is a minor thing, but I guess the only thing after you mentioned the school building and religious buildings, I guess I would put adjacent in there, if you think that's appropriate. If not,
I'm not sure what adjacent refers to in.
well,
Adjacent.
the new school buildings are adjacent and connected to the schoolhouse, and that was the only thing. And maybe it's not appropriate. I don't know.
There was some language that was used in Katie's report. You give me just a minute, or maybe it was Cynthia's report.
That's okay. It's probably not important. I just picked that up.
Having a little trouble pulling it up on my screen now for some reason. There we go. Okay. Give me just a second. Okay. Perhaps we can. Well, Katie's report refers to the schoolhouse and the 1963 to 64 constructed sanctuary addition.
Okay,
Can we substitute those words in, please, for where I said school and church in the
Okay.
resolution?
that works. Any other additions or corrections to Ken's nomination?
It's Otis W. Dryer, not Otis H. Dryer.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right, it is. I don't know where I don't know why. I thought H, sounded good, but apparently W is correct.
Okay, assuming that's all fine, may I have a nomination to put that forward?
I'll make that motion, John Page.
And maybe we have a second, please.
I'll second it, Amanda Dreer.
Thanks, Amanda. Any discussion? Ramsey, would you call for a vote, please?
Member Ludwig,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes,
Whitaker,
Yes.
Page,
Yes,
Dreer.
Yes.
Thank
Motion
you.
passes.
Thank you all. And John, Jim, and the other John, congratulations. We're here to help you if you need anything. Otherwise, there are no more designation of landmarks. Next item on the agenda is certificate of appropriateness. And if the commission doesn't mind, I will take the second one first because Marjorie's been here before. That is application 10H-02-20. Application of Marjorie Searle, owner of property at 124 Summit Drive, text number 136.07-1-15.11 for a certificate of appropriateness to replace windows and supporting wall on the south side of the home. Marjorie, I see you're here. Oh, yes, and we saw your kindling before. Marjorie, you have the floor. Just state your name again for the public record.
Let me unmute her, please. 1 second, Marjorie.
Okay,
There you go.
okay.
You're all set now.
Marjorie Searle, 124 Summit Drive. What? Last month, a painter doing some exterior touch-up work brought to our attention that the exterior wood molding of our 5-bay bow window in the south wall of the kitchen felt soft. This was the same situation that had prompted us to apply to the Preservation Board last year to replace our second-story north-facing windows, for which we received a certificate of appropriateness. The painter investigated the situation by removing interior drywall beneath one of the windows and discovered that water had been coming in through the windows and caused some of the wood to rot, which were the pictures that you saw. At that time, we contacted our architect, Jim Durfee, who reviewed the situation and indicated that we were going to need a contractor to do some repair work, that the windows might need to be replaced, but we wouldn't know until they could see what was going on. At that point, we made an effort to identify a contractor who would do the work and who would be able to fit us into his schedule, knowing that if it turned up that the windows did need to be replaced, we needed to act quickly to contact the Preservation Board in order to be in compliance. Further investigation by the contractor indicated that the windows were failing and were not being well supported by the section of wall below. He removed the windows to more fully examine the situation, and we all agreed that the windows were compromised as well, and we could not put them back in. At that point, we contacted Rochester Colonial, who had provided us with the Marvin windows last year and requested that they give us an estimate for replacing the windows. Our plan was to get the same exterior fiberglass interior wood windows that have been installed last year and repair the wall to match existing and paint the windows to match existing. Because we're facing at least a 6 or 7 week wait to get the new windows, it was necessary for the contractor to remove any of the deteriorating wood and secure the window opening against weather, animals, and human entry. As it happened, we had just missed the deadline for applying for the September meeting, so we appeared at the open forum to explain our situation and the need for us to move ahead with ordering the windows so that the contractor could complete the project before the snow flies. The Preservation Board graciously acknowledged the urgency of the situation and gave us tentative permission to move ahead with ordering the windows, with the understanding that we would revisit the application at tonight's meeting. Thank you for helping us to expedite the situation.
Thanks, Marjorie. Any questions? We talked about this last month. Any questions for anyone?
So just to be clear for me, you're using the same manufacturer that was previously approved, is that correct?
It is, and actually the windows that are being replaced were Marvin windows. So we're just using Marvin, same manufacturer, same color, same style. It will,
So
And
the old
same-
one, the
And
old
same
one,
size.
same size, right?
so
Thank you.
the old windows were Marvin's?
Yes.
Is there any warranty or anything? I mean,
We've had a lot of history with Marvin with this house. Scott can speak to that, actually. They've done a lot of replacing, but this, well,
we've had a lot of wood rot. This particular problem.
Who's speaking? I'm sorry. We don't,
this is my husband, Scott Searle.
I'm over here on the other side of the.
okay, thank you.
We've replaced a lot of windows. This particular problem with the bow windows was that the sill was probably not tapered or angled in a correct way. And so the water, when it would run down the glass, would run to the sill and then work its way through the wood. So it basically rotted out all the 2x6s underneath all the way down to the cinder block base. So what we're trying to replace it with is with Marvin windows that look exactly the same, but they're fiberglass rather than wood. And we're going to change the angle slightly of the sill so we don't run into this problem again. That angle was done incorrectly by the original builder.
okay, well, that makes sense. Thank you. Any other? Marjorie? Any other comments?
No.
Any questions or anything from the commission?
I'm good.
Okay,
Do we need a catalog submission or something to put on the record that it looks,
We've already
No,
submitted that.
right.
okay.
anything else? Mr. Gordon, do you have a resolution? A motion? Sorry, I didn't mean to catch you off guard there.
Good. He's muted still.
I think he's working on that. I feel like we should be playing the final Jeopardy.
All right, there. Sorry about that. I was stuck on another screen and I couldn't get back to this screen, but now I'm back. So yes, I have a proposed resolution. Sorry to keep you waiting. Whereas application number 10H0220 has been submitted for a certificate of appropriateness under the town's historic preservation law for improvement to property located at 124 Summit Drive owned by Marjorie B. Searle, S-E-A-R-L, to perform work described as the replacement of windows and a supporting wall in the south side of the house with similar Marvin windows. And whereas the Historic Preservation Commission duly called a public hearing to consider the matter on October 22nd, 2020. And whereas the necessary legal notice was published and the required sign posted pursuant to town code. And whereas the public hearing was held and all persons having an interest in such matter, having had an opportunity to be heard therein. And whereas the Historic Preservation Commission hereby determines pursuant to the factors set forth in section 224-5 of the town code, that the proposed above described work to the subject property is consistent with the purposes of the town's historic preservation law and compatible with the property's historic character based upon its review of the application and the documents on file and received at the public hearing and the testimony presented thereat. It is hereby resolved that the Historic Preservation Commission hereby receives and files the above described application and supporting materials. And it is further resolved that the Historic Preservation Commission hereby approves application number 10H-02-20 for a certificate of appropriateness for the above described work to be performed at the property located at 124 Summit Drive, subject to the condition that the above described work be completed in accordance with the application as that work and the materials therein are described, and that the work be completed within 1 year from the date of this approval.
God willing.
And be it further resolved that pursuant to chapter 224 of the town code, the above described work qualifies for the exemption set forth in New York Real Property Tax Law, section 444-A.
Thank you, Ken. May I have someone put forth the motion, please?
I made the motion.
Thanks, David. May I have a second?
I'll second John Page.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
Any discussion? Okay, Ramsey, would you call the vote, please?
Whitaker,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes,
Ludwig,
Yes.
Page,
Yes,
Greer,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, Marjorie, we'll expect an open house when you get done. Love to see it.
Okay, we'll have a party. All righty.
Good luck with the project.
Social distancing.
Thank you. Well, of course.
Thanks.
Thank
Okay.
you. Appreciate it. Okay, next item, application 10H-01-20. Application of Robert Burke Jr. and Cheris Lee, owners of property at 106 Oak Lane, tax number 138-05-1-9 for a certificate of appropriateness to construct a 335 square foot addition. Who is here to speak on that?
Good evening. My name is Robert Burke.
Carelessly.
Hi.
Before the, Jerry, before the owners get started, I do want to make a disclosure just because I want to put it on the record that, about 20 years ago, I did some legal work for Dr. Lee in negotiating or helping to negotiate a contract. I have not represented her since. I do not believe this presents a conflict, but I wanted to put it on the record.
Well, thank you, Mr. Giuliani. I think we're all set. Okay.
with that, I guess I never thought about it, but I guess I should say that Dr. Lee is my personal doctor also. I don't think it makes a difference.
Well, I don't know. I think we're all set. Carry on, folks.
Well, yeah, thanks for seeing us. From the time we decided to purchase the house, the kitchen is very, very small and quite old. And we were hoping to expand it a bit. Our plan is to expand it to the north side of the house, which does not face the street. So none of the changes would be visible from the street. And to connect it to the family room, which is in the back there. I believe our architect has
described the plans to you. And so we're hoping to go forward with that and to expand the kitchen a bit.
Well, another disclaimer, I guess, I was in the house years ago to inspect it. How long have you been there?
7 years.
Okay, I think it was before that. I was
Yeah.
in, so, okay, that's moved. Okay, so I'll let you have the floor and carry on.
So that, I'm not sure that the kitchen's been redone since the house was built in the 1920s. For sure, the cabinets have not been changed, but we're just hoping to make it sort of a more
Livable room. It's so small. It's maybe just for preparation of food, but it's not large enough for a table to do any the gatherings or hosting in the kitchen itself. So we're hoping to expand that out. So it would expand out into that little carport area there.
where the car is there, if you
Yeah.
look up.
Okay, just a quick question.
Yeah.
Did this kitchen have a stainless steel countertop?
Yes.
Okay, yep. So I remember it. Okay, great.
Yeah. And which, yeah. And as I said, when we first purchased the house, originally our idea was to do that. This was before it was designated as a historic site. So our plan for the house in purchasing it was to expand the kitchen and make it a more livable room. And we fully intend to comply with keeping the architecture, keeping the exteriors all the same as they are now, the pitch of the roof and things like that. We have no interest in changing the architectural integrity of the building.
Sure. John, I believe you had come up with some suggestions or concerns.
Okay, let's see. So I understand your program. I appreciate your program, what you want to do. It's a very difficult thing to do on the house the way it exists, in a way that is obviously sympathetic to it. So it's tricky. The drawings that are prepared, and thank your architect for supplying a little bit more information. Some of the things that make the house special, and that are part of the characteristics of the style of the house, are not particularly well represented in the drawings as they exist. They're subtle. Things like the roof at its eave takes on a slight curve to it. And just the type of doors and the windows. So we would need more information to assist with, in my opinion, to assist with an approval for the project in its entirety. Specific doors that are being proposed, specific windows that are being proposed. I think that you're going to be modifying the existing driveway. The driveway isn't significant per se, but you're opening out into an area that is perhaps an extension of an existing terrace, if I understand the property from the expanded kitchen area.
Terrace?
So you're
No, it would just be going into the driveway.
okay. So you're planning to have doors open. The French doors that you're proposing are proposed to open into onto the driveway.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So my comments are, what I think makes this difficult is that the original house, and you can, when you review the report on the house, it was the main block was built and then the rear block was built 10 or 15 years later. The main block, other characteristics of it are that they have very steep roofs. The addition also has steep roofs, except that it has a large dormer that has a roof slope that's less than on the original house, but it's still a fairly steep slope. In order to accomplish the addition by extending just the first floor, you are going to be putting in a roof over the addition for the kitchen that is a much shallower roof slope. And it's also creating an interesting angle by picking up the hip of the two-story portion of the area over the existing kitchen. And down at the bottom of that is where the existing eave has a little curve at it. And then the addition that is the entry and the canopy over the entry is also a very slight slope that is dying into the steeper slope that is the bottom of the main roof that's over the garage. So there's a number of things. I think working those details out carefully, I wouldn't, the roof slopes are unfortunate. They are not visible from the street. So they do have that going for them. The column that's proposed is, I don't believe, consistent with the character of the house. And I would suggest considering something else, perhaps a bracket. You have—
Sorry, what column are you speaking of?
The column that's supporting the canopy over the new entry that's proposed.
Okay.
Which doesn't have, it has a sort of modern detailing that's implied, and it's incomplete in terms of the information that would be necessary to help evaluate it. But you have canopies on your house that are good examples of things that could be considered. And I think that your rear terrace, if I'm looking at photographs, I don't have a real clear understanding, has a nice canopy on it with brackets that might be something that could be considered. Or if you feel like you need to have a column, then columns are unusual in the style of house that you have, but there might be a way to do it. It would be simpler than that. It would have chamfers and it wouldn't have a capital as shown and a base as shown. The doors that you're proposing for the French doors, you're proposing that they be 2 full light doors. And I would suggest that you consider having doors with simulated divided lights or simulated leaded glass that would be similar to your windows and other
We were
things
actually
in the
thinking
house.
for the doors, if I might, is that they would be the same as, they would mirror the door in the family room. So they
Mhm.
would, which is a leaded window. And so
Okay.
we would try to make them actually look like that. 2 doors with the leaded glass. And the column we're certainly not wedded to. She just used that as a structural.
Right, we're not,
to
yeah,
hold up
we
the-
didn't ask for a column to be there. I think she put that in on her.
So yeah, those little modern designs aren't something that we're planning on. I think she's just trying to do a rough drawing to show you. So basically the structure that we would use. But if a column is not good and there's another structural way to hold it up, then we could do that too.
So also the door to the new door that you're proposing, again, I think there's the way when we look at a Tudor house, and I've had this happen on a couple of projects recently, you start with the kind of door that would be most common, and people aren't as excited about that these days because it's more like your front door where it's it's got sticking in it, and typically it has like a small light in the top of it. And I know that I've had clients that wanted to go with something that had a bigger light in it. So a 3/4 light with a panel or something like that. The Rochester Colonial has a good selection of quality doors that they custom make that have that I would suggest you work with your architect to come up with a specific, because we're going to need to see specific doors for both of these locations and specific windows where you're using windows. Now I'm unclear on the way the drawing looks. Are you planning to replace the window that's in the kitchen now, or the windows that are in the kitchen now? Or are you planning to retain them?
Well, one of the windows looks like it's rotted out, and I'm not sure about the other one yet. But the one that faces the street is actually, unfortunately, seems to be deteriorating. The other one, we weren't planning on changing the size or how they look or anything like that at all. We were only going to replace them if during the process, it looks like they have to be replaced. Otherwise, we would keep them the same.
Okay, so getting some clarification on that, and then again, bringing in the information on specifically what's being planned would be very useful. I think that's what I've got here. I'm looking at this personally as based on the detail and the information that we have on the specific materials as an initial application that needs more information to help with what we're going to be making a decision on. That's just my opinion, but I'll hand it over to others now. Thank you.
Well, John, I agree. And folks, it would be helpful when you come back to have your architect, if it's possible, to join us, just so we could interact with her as well as you all when we talk about this the next time, if that's possible.
I guess, are we talking about, gonna have to talk about it another time? So I guess we will, yeah.
I guess, and John and I agree that we need some more information and specifics here.
Okay, so is it the doors and the windows are what you're asking?
Would it be possible if you emailed us a list of specifics that you'd like, and then we can give them back to you?
John, how do you feel about that?
Or is
I'm fine with that. And also, they can contact Ramsey and go over that, and Ramsey can pass that information on. If somebody wants to talk with me, I'm happy to, if the board is okay with it, offer opinions and so on about things. Ramsey, you're mute.
I would say that we did reach out to the architect with a telephone call, emails, saying we didn't think there was enough information to understand the application. It's hard for us to tell what a design professional, what to prepare in the drawings when we don't really know what they're trying to represent. Details of materials are important to show in the drawings. The drawings just lack details and specifics that you normally would see in elevation drawings.
Right. Did you hear anything from the architect after you contacted them?
We got some more submittals. So you got what we got.
Okay.
So
I just wanted to Yeah, I just wanted to add in here if I could. So for Rob and Karis, the commission's responsibility here is to make a determination as to whether the addition that you are proposing is consistent with the historic character of your house. In order to do that, things like the window details, the roof details, the door details, all of that needs to be provided so the commission can make a determination. Without that information, the commission cannot grant you a certificate of appropriateness to allow you to go forward. And that's where the problem is. So I would go back, and if you have not already read it, you should make it a priority to read the Cultural Resources Survey. That is the Historic Properties Survey that was relied upon when your house was designated. If you don't have that, I know that Ramsey could provide a copy of that, or someone in Ramsey's office could provide a copy of that to you, and provide it to your architect and take a look at it, and you will see what it was that was emphasized about your house. And you may learn some interesting stuff about your house when the property was designated. So I would not want to have John Page or any individual member of the commission speak on behalf of the entire commission. That's not how our decision-making is done. It's done as a group. And if you listen to what John said and your architect listens to what John said and you come back and you do everything John said, and, you know, Diana or Amanda or, you know, somebody else, Jerry, says, hey, I was so interested in something else, you're not going to be happy. Your architect's not going to be happy. Nobody's going to be happy, right? So take it with that understanding that it needs to address the very core question, which is, does your addition meet, or is your addition as proposed consistent with the historic character of your house? And we need all those details to be able to figure that out.
And
The
folks,
other thing for us to issue a building permit, when we get the construction drawings, it's these set of drawings that we're going to compare it against.
right.
Before we issue the permit to say we do have compliance with the approved drawings.
And folks, we're pretty easy to get along with. So if you have any specific questions, you can address them to me or to John or anyone else on the commission. We just want to see you make this happen. So
Yeah,
let us
well,
know what
we're
we
on the same page there for sure. And we do want to keep the historic integrity. We want to keep the same architecture of the house. We have no interest in changing that at all. We just want to provide you with the information that you guys need. So I would just want to make sure we're clear on what it is that we need to gather and provide to you. So we'll talk to the architect and I guess get their input on that, right?
Yeah, I don't think she understood exactly what it was that you needed, so hence we did not.
Yeah, I think what we need is detailed elevation drawings.
Yeah, and if she has any particular questions, she could address them to Ramsey or John, or even me. But I think in this situation, John is probably far more knowledgeable than I am about what we're going to need as far as specifics go. So we don't want to hold you up, but yet we need a little more information.
Okay. I wondered if I could just make a request. If not, it's fine. But we were hoping that maybe for the next meeting, we might be able to go first. Just my daughter has a bedtime to stick to that I wanted to try to get her in, if possible.
Sure. And the only reason we changed the order tonight was because Ms. Searle had been here before. And
No
so
problem.
we want to get her out of the way. But yes, you will be number one on the agenda the next time.
Thank you.
And Ramsey, just so we're clear on a matter of procedure, it is the commission's obligation to make a decision on an application within 60 days of when that application is filed. I understand this application was in fact filed on September 22nd. So today is 30 days from when that application was filed. Our next meeting is scheduled for November 19th. So that will be just inside that 60-day period. So I think we're timely as long as we act on this application by the next meeting. To put that really in a very pointed way, if we don't have what we need by our next meeting, my recommendation to the board is that they must deny the application.
Okay, I understand.
So I
we-
guess the best thing for your architect to do is to submit whatever it is that we need, and I believe it's elevations and specific material details, and get that in ahead of time. So if there's any question, we can have that revised by the time our next meeting is.
Okay,
What's the cutoff date, Ramsey, for submissions for the next meeting?
Well, we can give them more time. I have to talk with Gretchen because the cutoff, I think, was Tuesday. But there's more time. She needs a few weeks before the meeting.
Right, because it's an adjourned matter, we can give them some additional time, right?
Yes, that's what we do. I just don't know what that, I have to ask Gretchen when she's distributing. And we usually go the day before distribution. Try to give you as much time as we can.
okay.
Okay, folks.
So maybe we can talk tomorrow.
And if there's any particular things you need, I'm around the corner on East Avenue. So feel free to contact me or Ramsey or anyone else. We'll be glad to make this happen if we have the information.
Okay,
Okay,
well, thanks very
thank
much.
you.
Yep,
Thank you.
thanks
Okay.
thanks to everyone, yep.
Bye.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We have no hardship applications, so the public hearings are closed. New business, demolition review, 1285 East Henrietta Road, and I know this structure well because it used to be the home of MCC's HVAC program.
Yes, it was.
Yes, Mr. Montgomery, right?
That I don't, it's been sitting there needing to be taken down for a long time, in my humble opinion.
Right. Well, I believe they've since moved out to West Henrietta Road, maybe?
Yes,
Yep.
the old Grossman's,
Yeah. Okay.
I think it was.
So I'm not crazy. So
Well, we're dating ourselves, Jerry.
I know. Well, it happens every day.
About 30 years ago that happened.
Yeah. Well, I have no problems with this delightful campus being demolished. Anyone else like to speak to this application? Well, we don't have to, I guess we just have to say, yes, we have no,
Yeah, the motion would be to direct the secretary to prepare a letter and send it to the planning board stating that you will not be scheduling a public hearing to consider landmark designation of this property.
great. Anyone have an objection to that? Don't all chime in at once. It's okay.
No, I don't have an objection.
If we could
Okay.
just do a motion, folks, a motion in a second. If we could.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move to direct the secretary to issue a letter indicating we do not intend to hold a public hearing to designate the property as a landmark.
Thanks, Amanda. May I have
I'll
a second?
second that. I'll
Thanks,
second it.
And we got Robertson seconding it. Thank you.
Any other,
Member Ludwig?
well, just a minute, a point of order, any discussion? Okay, go ahead, Ramsey.
Sorry, didn't mean to jump the gun. Ludwig,
Yes.
Robertson,
Diana? You're
Sorry
muted.
about that. Yes,
Whitaker,
Yes.
Page,
Yes,
Greer,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you all. Any other new business? Old business. 9H-01-20.
Jerry, the this hearing has been closed. We did close the public hearing.
Yes,
We did receive a communication, which I believe you all were sent earlier from the property owner.
yes,
There was also a memo that you requested from Katie that we received.
yes.
And you did request that. We did get that out for you. But I believe you have everything for the record.
I believe so, yes.
Would you like me to put forth a proposed resolution so that the board can discuss it?
Yes, thank you. Unless there's any discussion.
Well, there's nothing to discuss right now because you don't have a motion or a second before.
Okay, very good. Carry on, Ken.
I would propose that somebody make the following resolution or motion. Whereas application 9H-01-20 has been submitted for designation of 332 Landing Road South in the town of Brighton, County of Monroe, State of New York, tax parcel number 138.05-2-77 as a landmark under the town's historic preservation law. And whereas the Historic Preservation Commission duly called a public hearing to consider such matter, which public hearing was held on September 24th, 2020, and all persons having an interest in such matter having had an opportunity to be heard therein. And whereas based upon the materials submitted at and the testimony presented in the public hearing and the materials received by the commission following the public hearing, including the application prepared by town historian Mary Jo Lanfear dated June 30th, 2020, the cultural resources survey of said property by Cynthia Hauk dated 2004, the update to that cultural resources survey prepared by Katie Eggers Como dated February 18th, 2020, a memorandum prepared by the town historian Mary Jo Lanfear dated September 22nd, 2020, a letter from the property owner Angela Picaro dated September 23rd, 2020, and a memorandum from Katie Eggers Como dated October 9th, 2020, and further communication from property owner Angela Picaro dated October 22nd, 2020, and such other and further materials submitted to the Historic Preservation Commission in connection with the application. The Historic Preservation Commission finds that the reference property possesses such historic value based upon the fact that it is a noted example of the work of Arthur Headley, a noted designer and architect, and it is architecturally significant as an outstanding example of Mr. Headley's personal interpretation and adaptation of Italian Renaissance inspired design elements in Brighton. It is also associated with a prominent local family, the De Ritters, and therefore meets the criteria in the town of Brighton's historic preservation law for designation. Now, it is hereby resolved that the town of Brighton, application 9H-01-20 for designation as a landmark of the property located at 332 Landing Road South in the town of Brighton, tax parcel ID number 138.05-2-77, together with all of the above reference materials submitted in connection with such application, be received and filed. And be it further resolved that the Town of Brighton Historic Preservation Commission hereby designates the above referenced subject property located at 332 Landing Road South in the town of Brighton as a historic landmark pursuant to Chapter 224 of the Town Code, based upon the commission's findings as set forth above regarding the historic value of the subject property and its association with the social, cultural, political, and economic history of the town.
Thank you. Ken, may I have someone put forth a motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
Thanks, Amanda. May I have a second?
I'll second it, John Page.
Thanks, John. Any discussion? Okay, Ramsey?
Member Ludwig,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes,
Whitaker,
Yes.
Page,
Yes,
Dreher.
Yes.
Motion passes. It's designated as a landmark.
Great. Congratulations, Angie. Any other old business?
I
We
should
have,
say, thank you very much.
we have 1037 South Winton Road, and I believe we were going to hold off on that until Supervisor Malley had a chance to approach the powers that be. And
That is correct, Jerry.
so we're going to wait until we hear back from Supervisor Malley before we proceed with that. Any other old business that we need to talk about? Do we have any? Go ahead. Do we have anything on the agenda for other potential designations? Well, given that, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, David. Anyone else? Second?
second.
Thanks, John. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll see you next month.
Hey, Ken, could you stay on for a second? Brett, could you stay on for a second? I want to talk Zoom. Just for a second. I know it's late, we're tired, but everyone else can go.
Thank you. Thanks, Ramsey.
Guys.
Thanks, Ken.
Rhoda, thank you.